Hello, my name is Devin O'Connor. I am a mechanical engineering technology major, and for the choice book assignment, I decided to go with A Year in the Maine Woods by Bernd Heinrich. So, the book starts from Vermont, but the guy's originally from Maine. So he's a zoologist. He went to he went to the University of Maine. Graduated from the University of Maine, teaches at the University of Vermont, and he's a zoology major, and he decided to go in depth on the raven population, kind of get better understanding of them, get some good data. So he decides to go out and get his own raven right from the nest. Takes it home, built a nest for it, gets it comfortable with him, names him Jack, and then they set out from Vermont to the western part of Maine to Adams Hill, where he has his own cabin. One of his best friends actually he's an Adam. One of his best friends, his last name's Adam. Can't remember the first name, but just part of that lineage. So they starting from Vermont, they make a stop along the way. This part right here is pretty gross, but I thought it was pretty funny. So he stops at a diner, and just like a dog, where like you leave the car and they'll run right up to the window and they'll miss you the whole time. The Raven did that, but instead of chilling, being a good boy, he decides to destroy the inside by they said like a blueberry goes through him in like 5 or 10 minutes. So it absolutely covered his truck. But that was a little side note. So he gets up to Maine, he gets up to his cabin, and he does a lot of just walking around, observing, and going into very, very descriptive detail on everything. And he makes these hypotheses about everything too, and then he tests them. He tried his own hypotheses on the moon, like how it moves with the earth, moves with the sun, and he was correct. He's a very brilliant guy, Bernd. So he goes through that. He has a son, Stuart. He comes up, hangs out with him. His wife actually left him. She said that she couldn't either deal with him or couldn't deal with the woods, and it was most likely a good mix of both. So his son comes up. Later in the book, his daughter graduates from college. He goes down there, and he actually has some students that come to his cabin for a winter ecology project. So that they do some studying out there with him. But he goes down there. One of them gets a master's. He's there for him, like gives him like the gown, the colored gown, relates it to one of the bugs, like right at the end too. Pretty cool. And yeah, he gets a whole lot of studies, and through the book he talks a lot about the Native Americans, like goes on a whole rant on how Maine came to be, starting with the glaciers, the land bridge, bringing over all of the animals like the saber-toothed tigers and I think the mammoths might have made over here too, but like the ancestors of deer, ancestors of moose. So they make their way out here. They get absolutely slaughtered by the Clover indigenous people, Clover something, sorry. And talks about that and like the rush out west to do farming. So they all left. The Europeans that came through, they destroyed our forests, all of the animals, because that's just what Europeans do. They think that they don't stink, their roses don't stink. They think they smell like roses, but anyways, the Native American population is very well represented in this book. He talks about different practices, like maple syrup. That came from the Native American population. I found that out through this book. And they actually found that out through squirrels, where the squirrels will go up to the maple trees, they'll scratch the bark, and then that sap that comes out, they don't got kilns to evaporate it, so they just let it evaporate on its own. There's like a certain time of year too that it works very well. It's when it's really cold at night. so there's not much humidity in the air. And then when the sun comes out, that's when it evaporates, and then they get their little bit of sweet. And the Native Americans had to have observed that, and they made they did it like with birch baskets. They'd fill it up and then probably boil it over a fire. But yeah, he talks about that. The beans of Egypt, that's related to this book too, where the guy, he's very very in touch with the whole community. There's a lumber yard where he has a buddy over there. According to the book, how it made it sound is they knew each other before, like the guy knew his wife, and they had split up since. Like the guy asked him about his wife and said, oh, she either couldn't deal with me or deal with the woods, or most likely a good bit of both. So, and that kind of relates to later on in the book. Jack leaves, and like when you figure out what you like and where you got to be, your heart kind of takes you where you got to be. So but with the whole beans of Egypt there, he knows that guy over the lumberyard. This is a good example, and he has a chainsaw. The guy, Bernd, he has a chainsaw on it. He has to make his own firewood. That's a big thing in Maine. The woods drives and keeps everybody alive. You're either going to be burning your own wood or you're going to be cutting it up and selling it. Either way, it always goes back to the woods. But yeah, he goes there. His chainsaw's not working. Brings it to his buddy. A couple seconds, and he has the thing going. And tells him, no, you don't owe me anything. But I really like this saying, where then we're all in college right now, and this is something we all need to remember, is that like you can do something super simple, but the fact that if you use your college experience to come to that conclusion, to do that simple thing, whatever you did is worth, he says, you need to take $10, 50 cents for what you did, because he literally just pulled on the chain real quick. It had like a burr on the spline to the gear that drives the chain. So you did that. It's like 50 cents for what you did and $9.50 for what you knew. So that's something that we all got to remember when we get out of here. Like, know what you know. And like remember that you know that, and like you put all the work in to know that. So yeah, that's Beans of Egypt, what I got to relate to it. Overall from the book, it was definitely, the ravens were a very symbolic part of the book. So like Jack, he was even seeing himself kind of do some things like a raven. Like they really enjoy their life. They don't stick to conformities. They don't really go by any real schedule. Like all the birds, they get out when it's time to go. Winter, fall, at late fall they leave. And like the geese, they're kind of like, if you're gonna call the ravens the true Mainers, the geese are the summer people. They only stay here for the summer, and then they get out of town to somewhere warm like Florida or what have you. So the geese, they're in this formation, the V. We all know it. We've all seen it. This V that they go south, and kind of looking at that as the summer people, because they're all ready to go. They got a place down there. That's what they do. But the ravens, they kind of do their own thing. Like there's even through the book, there's a lot of ravens that leave, but there's still like even through the winter, he'll see ravens here and there. Not a ton, because the birds leave, but compared to the geese, like the geese are out of there. They come for the summer and they leave. The ravens, they do what they want to do. And I like that. I didn't know that about ravens. I thought they were just a pest, but no, they kind of do their own thing. Crows give them a bad name, that's for sure. But yeah, so I really like this book. The ravens were very symbolic of just the true Mainer, and it was cool how like he related it to himself. He's doing things like really just appreciating life, and not like beginning he was kind of staying to a schedule, but then as the book went on, he kind of just did his own thing every day, whatever he felt like doing. Like he still had his studies. He did a lot of studies. Like the logging companies, was a little example. They would go through and they'd just wipe out, they call it a clear cut. just wipe out a section of the forest. And he wasn't a big fan of that, but like upon really like just looking around, taking observations, he was able to get data on how the different species of trees, like the saplings, how they kind of fight with each other. And he was finding like per square foot, like 20 different saplings per square foot. And like you're not gonna find you're gonna find a tree inside of a square foot. So like there's like right off, as soon as they're little, they gotta be fighting for their spot. And yeah, I thought that was all the studies were very, very cool. And growing up in Maine, born and raised in Augusta, I was always in the woods. So I know what the Maine woods looks like without even reading this book. But reading this book, it really made me appreciate all the time I've spent out there, because it made this book very, very enjoyable. Having that imagination already ready to go. And like I've never really enjoyed a book like this book. It's a good book. If anybody is from Maine and has really spent a lot of time in the Maine woods, I would definitely highly advise reading A Year in the Maine Woods by Bernd Heinrich. It's a very vivid book, talks about everything. Flowers, the animals, the trees, everything. So, yeah, I really like this book, and I hope you guys read it too. Thank you.